I was front jump, but an old front birth. Okay. Okay, we're good. Robin? No mai haere mai. Mai te pai maunga raro ki te tai, mai e te awa tonga raro ki te awaraki. Tēnei te puri awhi ai e taratahi whanau mai te toki homi e God and welcome everybody. Thank you for all being here today. Straight into business. Apologies. Have any apologies? There are none. I think we have a full muster today. So record conflicts of interest declaration. Are there any conflicts of interest given the order paper as published? Wish to be declared? There have been none. Public forum.
Maybe I have a question. Do I have a conflict of interest if I don't have voting rights at the table? So therefore no need to declare anything?
No, you haven't.
Right. And I consider whether being Māori was a conflict of interest given the agenda.
I deal with that all the time.
Okay.
Māori myself, and I was actually wondering whether I should declare a conflict of interest, being that I am Ngāti Kura Whitia, and I'm of Hurunui-Rangi and every bit. No,
not a ratepayer.
And I'm a ratepayer and a rural one. No, there's not. Public forum, we have a number of people who wish to present today. So I'm first going to invite to the table Kelly, speaking for the swimming pool, and who else?
Catherine.
Catherine, I think we pack you both separately, but at the same time, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Swimming pool. Floor is yours. Welcome, Sable. I think you know everybody here.
Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon. For those that don't know me, my name is Kelly McCurdy. I am part of the Carterton Swimming Club committee member, as well as the project working group member. Thank you for allowing myself and Catherine Rossiter-Steed to update you today on where we're at with the Carterton Indoor Pool Building Replacement Project. We've achieved a lot since attending the forum in March and then meeting again with Council in April. We have pre-project funding has been secured from ECCT and the Carterton District Council Community Fund. This is to support the geotechnical assessment, architectural concept drawings and procurement. Project construction funding applications are waiting on pricing. Geotech assessment company has been booked and concept plans are underway. Thanks to the project consultant, the club has secured through Western Bay District Council templates from their community pool roofing project. Thanks, Glenda, for assisting with these. These have been updated for our project. Pending times of these reports, we're expecting to notify the selected suppliers of the request for proposal this side of Christmas. The proposal evaluation will occur early in the new year. Having a suitably qualified council staff representative on the evaluation panel would be much appreciated. Regarding the ground lease, I've only just heard back from the lawyer this morning and we'll need to discuss this with the Swimming Club Committee. You should hear back from us soon. On the fundraising side, we've been busy in the background and have had a very successful Daffodil Festival fundraiser with the dunking machine and barbecue. Thanks to Beehive for donating sausages and bacon, and a special thanks to Honorary Ron Mark being auctioned off. You're a great sport. We'll also be appearing at the Scarecrow Festival, the Carterton Twilight Markets, and a very Carterton Christmas. Please stop by and support. I'll now pass over to Catherine from our project working group to share our exciting 2024 fundraiser.
Yeah. Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Mayor Mark and councillors, for this opportunity for us to have a chat with you. My three kids learnt to swim and swam for Carterton. I'm an event manager and live in Greytown, and I've been using the pool for over 13 years. In my time, I've watched kids grow into adults, people become parents, recover from major injuries, win and lose their battle with cancer, and some achieve their sporting ambitions. This is the only year-round pool that's available to the community in the southern Wairarapa. And I know as far as Kuranui, they've used it for canoeing. And I know people travel as far as actually Papaiuta and in fact Featherston. This is so the Big Swim, which is the event that we're organising for March. The Big Swim's primary goal is to swim or walk any lengths of the pool to achieve a cumulative total of 1 million metres. It will take place between Thursday the 7th and Sunday the 10th of March in 2024. It's a community event that requires bringing a community together to raise funds and will include postal entries to create a truly global event. Swim a million to raise a million. Talks are taking place to secure sponsorship for medals, ribbons and fly, and invitations to take part will go out shortly to celebrities, and you're all welcome to take part. Local primary schools will take part on the Friday. That will be a school's day. We would like to hold a community day in the outdoor pool on the Sunday. We hope that the council supports the event through its media channels, help and share, let everybody know it's taking place. And we would like to ask you for the use of the outdoor pool during the event. Pretty much it.
Yeah.
Are there any questions that anyone would like to put?
Hold on. Thank you so much. Those I love these. Had a couple now, and I appreciate all the effort that you guys actually put into promoting this, to getting it moving, and to ensuring that its importance is not overlooked. I just had a question why that's the only thing you're asking of the council. Like, if you're planning to raise some funds, wouldn't you like to ask the council to match that dollar for dollar? I mean, seriously, you ask so little of the council, and you've done so much. You've got so much support behind doing this. So why wouldn't you ask that?
Very good question.
We did meet with council in April after the March forum, and we had a list of what we required, and
You're happy with that?
Not really, but there's not more that we can do about.
Sounds to me like a fantastic idea. Dollar for dollar. I guess that's something maybe you could discuss.
The council might want. I mean, everything that they do here has a consideration on ratepayers, obviously. So it's not as simple as just saying that, and I guess you understand that. But I think what you have shown as a commitment to this community and what this council does is supposed to show the reciprocity of that.
I can't underestimate the value of this pool, and if you're not aware of it, I'm sorry about that, but this pool has been instrumental to a lot of people. Its actual basis is well-being, and if you were to come down and meet the community, the people that use it, you'd understand why it's important, and the fact that it could actually be opened up to more users would be amazing. So we've had better ventilation, great changing rooms, good heating. I mean, imagine how many people could use it.
PP swimming.
Absolutely. And the fact you've got to remember, this is the only all year round pool in the southern Wairarapa. That's, we don't have to travel. What does it cost? $20 now to go to Masterton. Your community can just walk round to the pool or cycle round to the pool and use it. And if they know it's available and it's open and it looks great and it feels great and it's warm, then people will use it.
Thank
we
you.
have had council requests we have made, such as getting the building sort of the word
Renovated. Yes.
no, not the check, the license, no, the license for the council approval for
Consent.
that's the one. Council consent, they have put that through for us. We had requested Glenda to help us get the templates from the council up there, and barometers have been a bit of a issue trying to find placements for those. And then we got the community grant fun. So
So sounds like
And it's-
the council staff do a great job.
yeah, and we have requested, one of this requests is to try and get someone on the panel that can from the council that will help.
Nice. Well done. Thank you.
Questions? No. Mine, are there any questions? I only, sorry, Rob.
Sorry, so somebody on the panel, you'd like an elected member.
No, not necessarily someone, no, definitely not someone from the council that has experience and skills to help us select.
Tender evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody with the appropriate skill,
Mm.
clearly, we just,
Or that can tap into those skills.
Thank you.
So the dates for the big swim again?
yeah, the 7th to the 10th of March, those are the dates that we've penciled in. Reason being that it's a little way into the school term. People just, kids will come back from holiday and into the school. Also, a lot of the major sporting events will have happened. And we think the pool may well be closed to the pub, the outdoor pool will be closed to the public then, so we might have the opportunity to use it for an extra week if the weather is okay. And if it's not, still to be able to do something outside in that space would be really good. And the event is not just for elite swimmers. It's what we would like to see. We were saying is the beautiful thing about the indoor pool is it's walkable. It's only up to just below your hip in height, and we will obviously provide assistance to anybody who wants to try and swim. I've helped with the Wairapa Kids Try, and we assist people with cerebral palsy and people with disabilities so that they can actually take part and do a length. So we'll make sure that we're able to do that so that anyone and everyone can.
The walking part, is that walking in the pool, or if some people have those, or you can walk.
You can just walk your meters in the pool. Like there's a group of ladies that come all the way from Featherston every morning, nearly every morning, and that's what they do to stay fit. That's what keeps them healthy. That's what keeps them going, and they walk in the pool. There's actually quite a few people who walk in the pool actually. Yes. It's really easy to do, and it's warm.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it. Next up, and good to see you here, Joel, speaking for Karakia Whitia. You have 5 minutes speaking time. Welcome to the table. The floor is yours.
Tēnā koe. I don't know whether to sort of stand, but
Yeah, I think.
I might just, yeah, but o tēnā tātou. Ka matua e mihana ki a koe e te mea. Nau te herenga ki tō tātou tīpuna, I whakatūwhara I te hui nei. Ka huri au kia koutou, te pai o nā kai kaunihira, e mihana. Ina mana e nā reo, e te whānui o te rohe nei o taratahi, kua uhui mai nei, tēnā kata. I stand or sit before the council to encourage you all to vote yes for the Maori Ward for Carterton District Council. Ko waio, yes, I am here as a representative for Ngāti Whitia, but I guess to understand the person behind the role. Like the mayor, I come from a Defence Force background. I spent 12 years serving our country in the Navy as a diver, spent time overseas in the Middle East and everywhere, as well as 3 years with our Special Operations Group with counter-terrorism, and then left that to move into education, and I am now in social services as site manager for Oranga Tamariki and Tauranga. I say that so that, again, like I said, so you understand who's talking to. It's not just a Māori from around the corner or a person from around the corner. I understand, obviously, the history of our area and the importance of a role like this. In my other roles, I also engage directly with Bay of Plenty Regional Council, who have 3 Maori Ward seats. and also Tauranga City Council, who have, in the next election round, have voted to have a Maori Ward. And I see the difference that has, the impact, the positive impact that has had on Tauranga. And those that know Tauranga will know that it has a reputation that it lives up to. Nevertheless, the decision to make to create a Maori Ward, there's no hangover. There's no riots on the street. There's no protests for or against. If anything, it's brought Tauranga together. I'm not here to speak to you of the deep history of our area, or the impacts of colonisation on each hapu and whānau across the district. I would hope that our council, its staff and its leadership is committed and open-hearted to invest their time to learn the beauty and pain of the deep history we all call home. Carterton has a history of making bold decisions. In fact, we voted yes for the first openly transgender mayor in the world. Wairarapa electorate also voted in Whaia Georgina as their elected member twice. So I implore our council to be as bold as the district and the region was in 1995, 1999 and 2002 by voting yes for a Maori Ward. Some may say that Maori already have representation through examples like Whaia Georgina. However, if you recall that in 2004, she reluctantly chose to oppose the aspirations of Maori by supporting the Foreshore and Seabed Bill. Why? Because she was not representing Maori. She was representing the collective. We, whānau, hapu, marae, iwi and Māori in our communities are asking you to support us to have one voice alongside you. Someone who represents us, someone we know we can go to, someone who will raise our issues in council, not as a standing group or mana whenua rep, but as your peer and an elected member of council. Some will also say that we already have a Māori voice through our mayor. Now I say this with the utmost respect for my relation. I respect his position, personal views and politics. But I think my cousin will agree, he is not the voice of Māori in our district and neither am I. But an elected member of a Maori ward councillor. I don't know how Masterton all of a sudden can become the leader in our district, as I'm totally biased in my aspirations for Carterton. But they have already forged ahead and put in place a Maori ward. Yes, this can raise the heckles of some still stuck in a bygone era, but this is not you. We can do this together. If I use the wastewater treatment plant as an example, when this was first initiated through the RMA process, we, mana whenua, and also landowners directly affected by the works were never engaged. When I was eventually informed of this in 2022, I looked at who was on council and I did not know who to contact. Who represents us? Moving forward, I hope this never happens again to us or any other mana whenua group in Aotearoa. But with a Māori Ward councillor, we all know who to go to, who to ask questions, and who represents us. I know change brings fear of the unknown, and we all know whenever Māori opportunities or te tiriti o put into the conversation, that race baiting and uneducated accusations can raise its ugly head. I believe we are all better than this and can see the opportunity in front of us. Our tū iwi, Ngāti Kahungunu and Rangitane are nearing the final stages of our settlement. Our people are reinvigorated to reclaim our history, reclaim our language, and reclaim our tikanga. Māori in our district and region have always been open to sharing and protecting those within. Our area was known as Te Pōti Ririkore. Our tupuna from all through this district and all through this region stood firm to protect all those that were within. While the reality of our protection and sharing of resources hasn't always been reciprocated, a vote yes will be a step in the right direction. The advantages far outweigh any perceived negatives. Again, we can only look back to the wastewater treatment plant and how willing and open Māori are when we are sitting equally at the table. Now, one ward may not be equal, but it's certainly a step forward. Your mokopuna and mine will remember the decision that you make as Carterton District Council. Don't die in a ditch worrying about short-sighted individuals in our district. No one will remember them in time, just like no one remembers those who held similar negative views towards our previous mayor, Whaia Georgina Bayer.
Kia ora.
Think about our collective future, the future of your mokopuna and mine. You can do this, and so can we, together. Vote yes for Maori Ward, for Carterton District Council. Kia ora.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you. Moving to the next item of the list. Linda, question?
Questions?
No?
Any questions?
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Thank you. Questions? Thank you, Rob. Joel, the opportunity for take any questions any councillors may wish to ask.
Possibly Hui on the 26th. The date now. And
No, I wasn't. But my whānau members were. I report on Ngātuere, so we have critical cases coming in all the time. But we had representatives there.
Is there any other questions?
It's, I've got one for Joel. Thanks, Joel. Thanks for your presentation. Really good. I've got one question. Do you feel that Maori haven't got the presence and rights at the meetings at the moment? And if so, by creating a Maori Ward, how will this change the way that we're working at present?
I think the current situation for Māori, like I said, in terms of having being part of a steering group or mana whenua reps, is very different to having an elected council member. I think we can all agree to that. Now, the position and the influence of that, and even the perception and engagement of Māori with Carterton District Council, there's different levels of participation and there's different levels of engagement. And I would hope that, well, I know that from, like I said, from experience, from my engagement with the Papilini Regional Council and Tauranga City Council, it's very different when, as a mana whenua representative, speaking on the rights and health of whareroa marae, speaking to Tauranga City Council councillors or commissioners now, or if I'm speaking to Papilini Regional Council councillors, as opposed to speaking to the Rangapu, which is the Māori caucus or Māori mana whenua group or standing group or mana whenua that sit alongside the council. Very different. And it is not, the mana of, and I don't want to try and explain what mana is, but the mana of when I speak to the Rangapu, which is the Māori that is in mana whenua positions, is different to when I speak to Whaia Mate Moana McDonald on Papilini Regional Council. Like Tauranga City Council is yet to go through its elections to have an elected member, but it'll be very different in terms of my engagement with them, my what I will be asking of them as mana whenua or Māori in the Tauranga City Council, and that will be very similar, the same to what it is, what it will be and can be here in Carterton. As I mentioned in my speech, it in 2022, when I looked at the website, who do I go to? Well, who do I go to? And I know that you have a Hurunui rep, and I know you have reps now, but we as Māori, we want to go to a Māori councillor that are in our ward that are representing us. And it's not to take anything away from anyone in this room at all. Just like if there's a rural elected member, where I would expect the rural or farmers would want to go to a rural member as opposed to someone that represents them in town, because they don't represent them. They don't have the same lived experiences and histories, and it's very similar to us.
Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. Thanks, guys. I'm glad that you did that, because I wouldn't have been as kind and softly spoken. So my question for you is, do you believe if the Carterton District Council vote down the Maori Ward today, that there will be consequences or repercussions, if those are words?
I think it will be negative. It'll be very hard for Ngāti Kaununuki Wairarapa and Rangitane o Wairarapa to see how an authentic relationship could be possibly created or forged ahead with. Speaking for myself and for our whānau at Turuotani, it will be disappointing. We've come a long way since 2022. And as I spoke about, there's just far too many advantages and opportunities for us to move together, and they far outweigh any perceived negatives. So like I said, it will be very difficult. It would be hard for me to see that where is the direction of those in this room, if they are that concerned around a Maori Ward, then how concerned are they about us? How concerned are they about us? Ngāti Kaukurawhitia, te whānau o Ngātuere, and our area, because we are not going anywhere. If I'm not here, one of my cousins, my nieces, one of my children will be here. And I hope yours are too. But I hope that they are not having the same discussion.
My last question for you is, do you believe that waiting for a possible amalgamation would sort the situation for Carterton, given its size and population?
Like I said, I am very biased towards this area, because I actually believe that Taratai or Carterton is far more advanced than either Masterton or South Wairarapa. If I go back to Whaia Georgina as the example, if Carterton in 1995 can support a transgender Māori to become the mayor, then, and we celebrate her now in Carterton, in Wairarapa, in Aotearoa, and right across the world, then I believe that the time is now to wait for an amalgamation. When is how long is a piece of string, and when the opportunity is now.
Thank you.
Sorry, Grace.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. I really appreciated hearing your thoughts on this issue, because it is really important. My question is just with regards to our late Mayor Georgina Bayer. She in 1995 was elected without the need for a Maori Ward. So why do you feel that there's a need for one now?
Or if we've got a mayor that was elected without a Māori Ward twice.
Yeah.
And I think if we just hark back to what I talked about, she voted against the voice of Māori for the foreshore and seabed in 2004. because she was not representing specifically Maori. She was representing everybody. And that's okay. But she was not representing Hirunuorangi. She was not representing Te Ruatani. She was not representing the descendants of Waiohine, Wairaka, Ruamahanga. So her voice, she was not our voice. What we're asking for is a councillor voice on the council. Just like Masterton, just like Tauranga City Council, just like
yesterday,
many other councils.
unheard of. Whanganui. I've even learned how to say it.
Are there any other questions? Listeners? Okay. Thank you, John. Kia ora. Thank you everyone for the questions. And Glenda, Youth Council views item?
I'd like to pretend I'm still a young person for a little bit, so. Youth Council met last week. The numbers in the Youth Council are growing, so we've now got 10 young people in the Youth Council aged between 12 to 22 and diversity of ethnicities in that group as well. So they've gone through a voting process and they've now got 2 co-chairs in that group. They've also got 2 wellbeing leads and 1 comms lead. So they're really starting to gain a lot of momentum. Lou came along to the last meeting, so thank you. Open invitation to the rest of the elected members if you want to come along and meet. More than happy. One of the things that, Josie's here today. Josie's one of the new co-chairs. She's observing today, and from next year onwards, we'll like to come and sit in, and you won't see me pretending to be a young person. You'll actually have a young person. So last week, the team discussed the Maori representation paper, and their views are as follows. I've tried to keep it as to their words as much as possible. So Youth Council supports having a Maori ward. They see that it will help Maori and other ethnicities feel included. Any representation is better than no representation. So we currently have hapu representation who are in the know and get to be a part of these meetings but have no decision-making ability. What sense does that make? Why not give them a voice when they already have half the position? It just makes sense to have Māori representation on council. So Lou was in attendance, Bex is here. If there's any questions, we can try and answer them.
Questions? Thank you, Glenda.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay. Item 6, confirmation of minutes, 6.1, the ordinary council meeting held on 13th of September 2023. The minutes are there, taken as read. Someone like to move for an accurate record? Councillor Cretney, seconded by Mayor. All in favour? Against? Motion is carried. 6.2. Minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on 29th September. Again, taken as a very short set of minutes, very short meeting. Someone like to move through an accurate record? Councillor Della, seconded by Councillor Newman. All in favour? Aye. Against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item 7, Maori representation arrangements. Of the paper. There are a number of recognitions. I think
I'm happy to take questions. The paper provides a number of options for councillors to consider, but I'm happy to take questions on the process.
Options are outlined in para 8 on page 24. What was open for discussion, and then we'll work our way towards that. There are a number of recommendations, one of which is receiving the report, and then questions around resolution, what resolution council may be of mind. So floor is open, Jeff. Questions, go. Councillor Cretney.
Thanks. I've just got a question around the engagement. I'm just curious as to why council didn't think it was appropriate to go out to the whole community and engage with them as to whether they thought it was a good idea to have a Maori ward.
Really good question. So those on the general roll, well, if we adopt a Maori ward, we also have to adopt a general ward. So one of the councillors, one of the positions at large will need to become a general ward so that there will be those on the general roll will be able to vote for those on the general ward, but not for anyone standing on the Maori ward, and those on the Maori roll would be able to vote for a candidate on the Maori ward, but not on the general ward. And so in this case, the proposal to adopt Maori ward will affect those on the Maori roll. So we engaged with the affected parties, which was essentially the two iwi and the hapu Maori in this case, and we didn't engage with those on the general roll because in effect they wouldn't be affected by an adoption of a Maori ward.
So clarity, the Māori who are on the general roll aren't consulted either.
That is correct, because they will their vote will be towards the general ward because they are on the general roll.
Well, I was there on the day, so let me just clarify for the mayor. Just clarify that note for the mayor that there may have been Māori who were on the general roll who were in the meeting, but Māori are the only ones who have the opportunity to change from a general roll to a Māori roll. So that can happen at different points now because the legislation has changed over that. It doesn't have to happen in the way it used to at once every after census. So that has now happened. That happens alongside the election. So if the Māori ward is adopted, those Māori on the general roll will have the opportunity to change to the Māori roll before the next election cycle to do that. Therefore, if there were Māori who were on the general roll in that meeting, it wasn't like anyone opened up the electoral roll and figured out who's or who, and they only sent invitations out to that, went out through the iwi networks. Kia ora.
Any other questions? Bella?
Section on number 2 and 7.1 significance. The policy on engagement, all 4 statements there, including, I recognise in protecting Maori rights and interest in the district, etc., in going down, providing early engagement, taking in guidance and supporting Maori. All these are part of our policy and it currently are followed and endorsed and encouraged. We meet the way I understand it, we meet the legislative requirements at the moment, which encourages and supports Maori to enter and participate in local governance process. Is that correct? Jeff, can you clarify that? Are we doing all that we're legislatively required to do?
That's a long question to answer. There's a particularly long answer to your question, Councillor. There are various acts of Parliament, some of which the Mayor has been involved with in negotiating, whether they be settlement acts with iwi, whether they be acts of Parliament on particular environmental issues or governance or legislative issues. I think in terms of can we do more, the answer is yes. We can always do more. Are we meeting the minimum? It's probably not a bar I would like to have a conversation about, because that's meeting the minimum to me doesn't feel like it's enough. We certainly hear the voice of Māori around the table, but that voice doesn't have a vote, which I think is, to me, is the question of today. But we meet some requirements, I think would be a fair answer, Councillor Della.
Thank you.
Can I comment to that? Because there are legislative requirements on the council through the Local Government Act. that require the council by legislation to engage with Māori, right? It requires the council to give rise to the voice of Māori. It requires the council to uphold an equitable well-being for Māori in their community. It requires the council to go out and deliver and give effect to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. It doesn't require Māori to come to the council table to do that. That comes out of building good relationships and through the good grace of the hapu for being here. We have believed for a long time that you get far more benefit from us being here than we do in reciprocity for the effect that that has now on our living arrangement. Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of Mana Whenua, so thank you for giving us a place at the table. But if the place at the table comes with no teeth and a consultation only, where our voice is dismissed as not good enough, then that's why I be here. Because it's not incumbent on me to be here. It's incumbent on the council to get the voice of Māori in engagement. So we provide an amazing service by bringing that to your table. And from participating in the stuff that happens. And we see the benefit of it because finally now we might have a park that might have a little structure in it that might look like the kōkōpū because somebody got rah in the story when they're deciding what it's going to look like. Do you know what I mean? Mm. So we could walk away from the table today and say, no, we're not supporting a council that doesn't support us when the voice of the Māori clearly have in this community have said this is what they want. So we're providing you the service by being at the table and somehow our goodwill legislatively as a council. It's not incumbent on me to be here. It's incumbent on the council to engage in and give effect to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. So you get a lot of benefit from us being here. And yes, we sometimes get financially supported, but only me, not other people.
Thank you.
I just have a question.
Here again.
So on point 6 of this report under Maori representation and other councils, and then specifically just that last paragraph in the bullet point saying that using special legislation, there is Maori representation on Bay of Plenty and Canterbury regional councils. And I understand that they are regional councils. Is it possible for a TA to do the same thing, having special legislation?
Yes, it is, and it would require.
Yeah.
So you may recall Rotorua, like I can't recall, City Council have proposed legislation that would provide for a seat on the council that was outside of the current ward process, Maori Ward process. That legislation is currently on hold, but it is absolutely possible that a TA could have a legislative change that would provide a seat as well.
And then my second part to that question is, how long does that take?
Well, the first one still hasn't gone through.
Yeah,
you can't get a vote for a Māori ward, so cross your fingers. We've been here 200 years.
Thank
you. I have a question. Thank you.
Come to Councillor.
Yes or no?
Councillor Aylan.
Thank you. So I was taking a look at the representation arrangements review proposal, which was released to our town back in 2018. And that was to apply for the 2019 and 2022 elections. In that proposal, it was stated the district is represented by a mayor and 8 at-large elected members. The district is not split into wards or subdivisions. All councillors represent all residents. My question is, what about that statement is now untrue?
It's a really good question. In 2018, we did not have sufficient Māori enrolled on the Māori roll in order to consider a Māori ward. Whereas what has changed since that statement is there are more people involved in the Māori roll, which means we can now consider a Māori.
So is it the population of Māori or the Māori roll number that gives us that right? Because when we had a workshop with Stephen from the Electoral Commission, he'd given us the number that there were about 780 Māori in Carterton, but on the Elections NZ website, there's actually only 317 who are enrolled in the Maori role. So which figure is giving us that right?
And that's a very, very good question. So the Statistics New Zealand website includes those that are enrolled in either the general role or the Maori Ward role. And you are correct, the number of candidates or people involved in the Maori role are 317, I think is the number I've got. And there is approximately 7,336 approximately enrolled on the general role. And that is currently enrolled today. The Electoral Commission uses an estimated population, and those estimated population numbers, the numbers that Stephen gave you, 780 estimated Māori population in terms of enrolled on the Māori roll versus an estimated total population of 10,260. So essentially 9,480 on the general roll. And that's an estimation that they use off Statistics New Zealand data, and they project forward for a number of deaths, births, and that kind of thing. And those are the data, that's data is used across all of New Zealand for all of the calculations on Maori Ward, which is why there is a difference between the number that is on the stats or the Election New Zealand website of those just enrolled today.
Thanks for clarifying that. Further question, if I may. In that same 2018 Carterton District Council representation document, one of the key features that we listed of a representation review was to ensure that each councillor represents about the same number of people. And so I've had my calculator out and done some maths over the last few days. On the current setup as it stands, the Maori Ward councillor would represent 317 people approximately, maybe more if more go into that role, and an at-large councillor or a general councillor would represent around 917. So my question is, how is that going to enable equal or fair representation around the table?
What currently happens has no equity for our people. Sorry, was that not to me?
No, it's not.
So using the numbers from the Electoral Commission, a Maori Ward councillor would have about 780, and I think the math would be there would be, as you say, about 1,000 or potentially slightly more, 1,100 on an at-large council. It would be. You're absolutely correct. There would be a slight difference between those,
and that differential would be exacerbated if we, as an at-large council, opted to maintain that level of 8 and drop down one of our councillors to 7. That would then be skewing the representation slightly.
That's correct. That subsequent decision has yet to be made, but you are right. If that decision is made to drop the number of at-large councillors down to keep total councillors at 8, the number of elected member, the number of ratepayers that an elected member technically looks after will increase.
And that second decision is one that would be consulted with the public. That's the broader representation review. Is that correct?
Dropping that numbers.
No, yeah, it would. It would. It would
And that happens next year. That's right. Thank you.
Jeff, I still struggle with the arithmetic. We've got 300.
You've got the wrong name tag.
You also had to roll down a bit. I thought I was next.
No, you've been twice so far, Madam Council.
If we have 317 people on the Maori roll, the 780, that can't be an extrapolation ahead of that number. That must be the number of people who identify as Maori in the district.
Yes, it is.
It's an estimate. Yes, absolutely right.
Right. So I guess Marama's point was that the difference between the 317 and the 780 could go into the Maori roll if they chose to.
That's right.
But currently are. Okay.
Other questions?
No, carry on. No, you please go ahead of me. I've had well my.
I'll let you have your third slot.
Really? Because I've got a discussion with one
Must
later.
only have one.
Don't worry. If it gets to it, I won't
Open.
take notice.
Yeah, okay.
So I do have a question, and my question is around the concerns that the councillors have. And I'm voicing this to the councillors. If the concern is about the numbers and the inequity of how many people are represented, be assured that we've felt an inequity of representation for a long, long time. And with no due disrespect to anybody at this table, before we had a mana whenua rep sitting at this table, we didn't engage with this table at all. So I get that that was delivered for that purpose, but that has no teeth. And my question to you guys are, are there any fears that you have in establishing a Maori Ward outside of consultation and the numbers?
Are there any other questions, Councillor Allen?
Question or an answer to Marama?
Yes.
I think one of the concerns that I have, separate to mathematics, is the way it will divide our town. I'm concerned how I fulfil my role as an elected representative, elected to council, if I don't feel that I'm here to represent everyone or to represent Māori. I don't know then how I can fulfil my role in a fair, unbiased way and not walk down the street and see people I represent and people I don't represent. So I'm concerned about the divide it could cause around.
For yourself?
For myself and for my fellow councillors and how we...
Do you currently engage with Māori outside of these meetings?
I engage with anyone regardless of who they are. If they come and
Actively
talk to me.
cultivate Māori interest or Māori.
I think you should have the conversation through the chair.
Shall we?
Thank you. Yes, please, if we can. Otherwise, it's just a conversation. Yeah, so if you feel you need to ask
Me?
more questions.
No, please.
Councillor.
Thanks, His Worship. I just had a question, and this can be to Amy or Jeff. I'm just wondering if there's any reservations from local iwi or hapu, if someone other than Māori or someone who doesn't whakapapa back to Carterton Wairarapa wins the seat and therefore doesn't represent local iwi or hapu.
I'm through the chair. Can I respond to that?
Please.
Thank you so much. I feel to stand up because this is ongoing and long time coming. The representative who comes is a councillor who represents Māori who live in this district, like you guys do. Except I don't know any of my cousins who will come to any of you without no disrespect. They feel disengaged from this process. They come to us, right? We're here at the goodwill of being here because we see the benefits of trying to educate, help you understand, give you a name for the room you meet in, put some whakapapa on the walls, give some authentic history past the time where they took the land leases off us and took the whenua off us and gave it, not to central government, to local government. And that was all done by 1856. We've been in a position of poverty in this community ever since. And there are still farmers in this community who sit on the farms that were divvied up and given to them in their names since our people were moved off and sent to Manukino. We don't feel like there is representation for us around this table unless we're here. And I'm sorry if that makes you feel uncomfortable, but that's our reality of equity in this town. And that we have to stand up and ask and educate and try and demonstrate. Doesn't matter that we had an apology by the Crown for these crimes against our people, crimes, litany of crimes against our people, and stood up and apologised for it. And one of them was taking the leases and giving the land to the councils and not to us. We've been scratching and trying to get a voice for our people. And right now, I feel like if you vote this down, what a waste of time. We'll be back to, and look, I know I'm not trying to be grandstanding, but here's the voice of mana whenua. You asked me.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
ask me your
answer my question.
Go on, say it again. I'm trying to answer your question because it feels like I have to educate the room first.
Marama, could we?
That wasn't facetious. Ask the
Little respectful,
Oh,
please.
don't tell me about respect.
No,
Please answer the question.
I'd like, order. Can you take a seat, please? Please.
They made me go there, Ron.
It doesn't matter how many times you say with due respect. What matters is the words you say after that.
Yes.
Please understand, I'd like to have a good constructive conversation and to questions that are asked, genuinely looking for an answer to be answered. And I think you're in a.
I'm genuinely trying to give a response and hold back my questions right now.
I understand.
So please ask your question again and I will try and be succinct.
I'm happy to rephrase it a little bit shorter. Is local iwi or hapu worried about someone who does not represent them standing for the Maori Ward candidacy because it's open to anybody?
No, because they don't represent mana whenua. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. And I didn't want to say that in a facetious way. What I'm saying is a Maori Ward represents the Māori who live in this community, who is every Māori. A mana whenua rep is going to be here about Treaty of Waitangi issues, about equity, about mana whenua, about water, which we now have statutory management over in our apology. There are legislative requirements.
Sorry, can I just?
I think we're cross purpose.
Yeah, I think what Councillor Crackney is trying to say, and I'll put it, if I as non-Māori who doesn't whakapapa back to any iwi in the Wairarapa, if I put myself forward to stand as a candidate for the Maori Ward,
yes,
would Maori and iwi, if I was elected, feel as a non-Maori that if I was elected, that I would be able to represent?
No. I understand what say. Look, I've tried to say this three ways. This has been put in your head by the mayor, and I'm saying this as respectfully as I can. Now you bring up the All Black all the time example, not today, in previous meetings, Mr. Mayor, and the example is wrong because mana whenua reps will still be here. That's what the representation engagement said. We're not here to represent, and that person who gets on, that's great. Power to them. But mana whenua reps will still be here. It's not instead of, because they don't represent mana whenua in a Māori ward. You still have an obligation to iwi. You do. Under your legislation, read it. You have an obligation. If you want to dismiss mana whenua off the table and rely on the Māori Ward that got elected, you're ignoring your own legislation and your understanding of the Treaty of Waitangi. You are required to give effect to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. That requires you to have a MOU relationship like you currently do with your mana whenua. A Māori Ward rep is not replacing that. You would replace the treaty obligation if you replace that. That's not what you're doing. And that's why the confusion has come, because you keep putting up the example of Buck Shelford winning the seat. Buck doesn't represent mana whenua. He represents Māori who elected him from the Māori Ward who live in this community. You still have an obligation under the Treaty of Waitangi to have a relationship with Māori. That's what I tried to point out. And why I'm saying this is because if you understood what happened in this community for mana whenua, this would not be a decision you are angsting over. Like, why are you, there's an irrational here.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just try and simplify it again. If we just go back to couple of weeks ago when the national elections were held for central government, we have candidates that are standing in Ikoro Rāwhiti. Now, they don't whakapapa to each iwi in Ikoro Rāwhiti in that electorate. And not every Māori that's on the Māori roll in Ikoro Rāwhiti is from the iwi that are in that area. But they vote, they have the opportunity to vote for them, to get them to represent them. And in the terms of the question is, do you represent me? Look, and you don't represent me. You don't represent my whānau. But that's okay. You know, and if we have a Māori councillor that's sitting next to you, that's okay. You know, you will survive, just like they will survive, just like we will all survive. No one is, from someone that lives in an area that has gone through this. The world hasn't exploded. The sky hasn't come crashing down. And this is a council, albeit we have commissioners now, that have been very vocal in their angst against anything Māori. And that's their view and that's their position. And you know what? Tauranga City or Tauranga has survived. And Māori, Pākehā, Tauiwi are getting on fine. No one is holding commissioners to kick them out because of that. They've asked them to leave for a whole lot of other reasons. But no one has got up and said that the commissioners have to leave because they brought in a Maori Ward. If that's the fear, then like I said, no one is remembering when people were all up in arms and bigoting against a transgender mayor. I think that we've moved on. And it's to go back to trying to answer the two questions. Having a Maori councillor that's on the Maori Ward, yeah, they will. It will create change. But like Marama said, are they representing Ngāti Kahukura? Are they representing Hurunuarangi? No, they're representing the Maori voters that are on the Maori election, electorate. It's okay. It's Mama Noiho. It's okay. We'll go to sleep. We'll vote. Get them in. Next day, we'll all wake up and we'll be all okay.
Okay, look, I think bit of guidance that we have moved into discussion as opposed to the questions on the paper. Then there have been some questions that bear relevance to the paper, and they've been free-ranging conversation and backwards and forwards. And I think we need to move to a point. There are a number of options that are put up, the awards there. I guess there is a little bit of clarity. I have to say I've not seen anything in the paper that talks about a legal obligation to have hapu and award.
I'm not saying there's a legal, you established the precedent.
Please, you said in your comments that there's a legal statutory obligation under the Treaty of Waitangi.
To give effect and engage, not to have them at your table, but if we leave the table and you've got a Māori Ward, you still got to come out and see me Hurunuarangi or iwi or kahungunu. That doesn't remove your obligation. That's my point, Ron.
Oh, it wasn't your point that you
no, Ron, no,
as well.
No, what I said was just because you have a Māori Ward doesn't mean you lose your hapu. That's up to this table.
That's fine. I thought we were just talking about representation of the table. I don't mind. Sorry, I misinterpreted what you said. I think. Yeah. So questions on the table? Looking at the options.
Can I just clarify, in order of process, the recommendations, there's 3 there. You probably only need the first 2. You don't need the second resolution fails, resolve establish a Māori Ward for the 2025 and 2028 local body election. If that resolution fails, there's no need.
Unless there is another.
Are we having discussion?
Yes, we're having discussion. Yes. Just on the question.
I've got my stuff written.
Thank you.
As I equipped you guys before, because it's easier for me to write it down. This is a really divisive topic, and it's one that's far bigger and it goes far deeper than a paper brought to council, no matter how well written and researched they can even begin to convey. I feel it's really important that we acknowledge the past, the inequalities, the breaches of the treaty, and the fact that these things, while they happened in the past, are also still occurring today, and they play a huge role in the intergenerational inequality that we have here and nationwide.
I believe a Maori Ward seat would begin to formally enable fair and effective representation for Maori while ensuring pay equity around the table. It would strengthen our decision-making to reflect the views and outcomes of Maori, and most importantly, be a decision reflective of the unanimous voice of those Maori who were engaged in the matter. Maori Ward seats are not always the right solution to ensuring Maori representation around the table. An example of this was at Rotorua District Council recently, when at the time of their review, they already had Maori candidates polling at the top in the elections and were very successful at getting into council. Ultimately, this would be a great goal for our council to be working towards. The time to make this decision is right now. We need to stop waiting specifically on divisive decisions and the hard ones in case we do a merger. We need to do what's right for Carterton today and set that bar for if we ever did merge down the line. It's really important to note that Māori perspectives are not in opposition to the community's perspectives. Māori voices come from the public and they're good for everyone. Mana whenua knowledge is essential and it's a specific expertise and we need to treat it as such. We, Carterton District Council, as a local government entity, receive our powers from the Crown and therefore we're expected to uphold their principles and responsibilities, including responsibilities to Te Reo Waitangi, but it's more than that. Even if we didn't have to do it, respecting Te Reo feels like the right thing to do. Te Reo is explicit that Maru Tino Rangatiratanga is reaffirmed. This means that Māori have the right to be directly involved in the governance of natural resources and other matters here in Aotearoa. Tools such as Maori Ward seats or voting rights are one way to work towards this. Te Reo is also essentially about a partnership, which can begin to be met through guaranteed Māori representation, which will help create equality in our decision-making and ensure there's better collaboration with Māori. Here at CDC, we engage with Māori in many different ways, but there doesn't seem to be much accountability on what this engagement actually means. Engagement does not always result in the Māori voices being clearly taken into account. Targeted community engagement with Māori representatives done on this has revealed there's a consensus from mana whenua that the establishment of a Māori ward would be an important opportunity for Māori to be more involved in council decision making. The engagement has been done, so the question is, are we going to listen to it? The engagement done by the CE staff, mayor and the mana whenua is the correct way to deal with matters of representation, I believe. This issue needs to be dealt with in a deliberative manner that employs a balanced and considered dialogue, not by a poll. We need mature and constructive conversations, and resorting to simplistic and emotion-fueled campaigns to seek votes isn't good for our community, especially those in minorities. Should we, the council, resolve to establish a Māori ward seat, or any other ward for that matter, against the wishes of our community, then the Carterton community has the option to hold us to account at the next election. This is how representative democracy is intended to work. We've always been a progressive council, like Joel pointed out. We elected the first openly transgender mayor, and I hope today that we can take this opportunity as a council to be brave and ensure we continue to walk into the future while always keeping our eyes fixed on the past. Kia whakato mori, te hare whakamua.
Are there any other comments, questions? Lawrence?
Yeah, I'm happy to put my point of view. It says in the paper, and it's been said at various other workshops that we've attended, that the establishment of a Maori ward is really a matter for Maori, and that is where our requirement to engage lies, and that it has no impact on the balance of the population or the electors of Carterton Council. I just can't agree with that, because change to the balance of the council will impact on everybody. And the fact that we have not engaged with the balance of the community is a problem for me. So my view is that I know we're running up against a time constraint, but we're talking about something that's gone on since 1840. I believe we should postpone this decision until such time as we've given the balance of the community an opportunity to let us know what they think.
So whether they'll let a Maori stand up in the community.
Councillor Cretney.
Well, they may well do.
Thank you, His Worship. I just wanted to make a couple of points. Just recently, there's been Whanganui, Waitomo, Waipa, Hutt and Kapiti district councils. And they all made their community very aware and engaged with them around the development of a Maori Ward. Just thinking about the Māori voter turnout at Taranaki 5 Māori wards, it didn't even reach 30% of those on the Māori roll. Thus leads me to the conclusion, providing a Māori ward has not increased Māori voter turnout, so are Māori in the community being represented by the representative? I also look at a little while ago, we talked about potentially changing the election, the way the Wairarapa runs or Carterton runs the election from first past the post to STV. And I feel that would have been a great decision to be in line with this, considering that with the Māori ward, they only get one vote for the Māori representative and one vote for the mayor. They don't get to vote for the other 7 standing in their district. But in STV system, they get to vote for all 9 altogether. So I just feel like this is a very undemocratic way, especially without having any idea what the other 50% in Carterton who aren't on the Māori roll actually want to do. Do they want to lose the opportunity to vote for another 7 councillors on council? Or are they happy just voting for the 1? And I don't know that. So at this stage, I can't vote for it, I'm sorry.
Any other? Councillor Ailing.
I didn't understand that last bit.
So my final thoughts were, I'd done a lot of research over the last few months since we first discussed this concept of establishing a Maori ward, and it's something that I have personal strong feelings about. But I feel as an elected representative, my thoughts pale in comparison to the value of the thoughts of the people that I'm here to represent. And I don't feel that I understand their thoughts on this issue because we haven't had a broad consultation process. Earlier this year, the Western Bay Council established a Maori ward, despite the fact that a public poll a few years earlier had seen 78% oppose the decision. A councillor around that table called it an abuse of the trust of the people who elected you and pay your salaries. Another councillor said, the day we stop listening to our community, we should not be here. I asked my fellow councillors, how can we in good faith claim to represent our people when we haven't even asked all of them what they think? In 2021, Minister Nanaia Mahuta rushed an electoral law change through the Parliament to abolish the poll provision around establishing Māori wards, despite official advice from the DIA claiming it would be, quote, very controversial and undermined progress on these changes. National and ACT have both opposed the change, calling it out as undemocratic. The incoming government have said that they will repeal this law. I don't feel that 2 wrongs make a right, and using an undemocratic rushed law to push through a significant electoral change locally here in Carterton is wrong, regardless of your position on Māori wards. We are a liberal democracy and we have been elected democratically by the people. We should be the ones championing democracy, not undermining it. One person, one vote is a fundamental democratic principle, and it's one I seek to uphold. I believe we were all elected to represent all of Carterton, to champion all voices of everyone. I don't believe Māori wards champion Māori or their valued voice. It puts them in a box, and it says to their people, this is the only way that you're going to be heard. I think that's rubbish. We don't have an issue in Carterton of electing Māori to council. I sit here under a Māori mayor. We have an issue attracting them to stand in the first place, and that's something that I think we need to see turned around. But I don't see establishing a Māori ward as the answer to this. Even if the majority of this council are generally supportive of establishing a Māori ward, using this undemocratic law to cement the vote is going to have reputational damage to this council. If we want a ward, we should be bringing all of our people along with us, not refusing to hear their voice. A local government New Zealand survey shows that Māori make up 13.5% of local representatives, which is actually extremely close to their share of the population of a whole. I, for one, want to see that increased, but I don't see Māori wards as the answer to this. So I'll be voting against it.
Are any, councillor Gowan?
Elected representative, and I like to use the word democracy a lot of the times. If people want to be a representative, then get the support. Look at, I don't know, half these people might have been born in here. Ben Couch, he was a legend. He was he did a lot of things for a lot of people. You mentioned Georgina Byers, once again, another legend, did a lot of good things, but got support, got voted in, and even Ron Mark, he's a legend, he told me that. But people need to get a bit of support behind them, vote through, get in there, change things if they want. I'm a bit uncomfortable with that whole thing.
Thanks. Yeah, the Mayor, thank you. I've got 4 points really that I just want to put on the table. The Carterton District Council's approach up till now, when we've got an issue that we seek feedback, we give the priority weighting to those that are most affected. So we tend to target the consultation, which is what we've done with Mana Whenua. And we do it with young people, with elderly, with business people.
Sure.
Those who are most affected, positively or negatively, have the priority weighting for feedback. So I have no issues with the process that we've conducted to date. The second point I'd make is that as a council, we celebrate amongst ourselves and further afield, and we acknowledge the relationship we have with tangata whenua and hapu in this district. And we benefit from their support, advice, guidance, in a multitude of ways. I see Māori wards as an opportunity to enhance the partnership. And for me, it just feels low cost, high value in a decision. The third point, as His Worship said, it's no secret Carterton District Council is driving or corralling for a greater Wairarapa merger, and all of the previous proposals included Māori wards. And it's also known that we're really working hard towards a 2025 as a target date. But there's a lot of things have to line up before that's met, and we're realistic about that. We're driving for it, but if for any reason that timeline is not met or delayed, voting yes for a Māori ward now is a practical way of underwriting the intention of those greater Wairarapa mergers, and ensuring that at least this part of any greater merger plan can progress by that timeline at least. That's the way I see it. And the last point is that as a council, particularly in this triennium, we've invested in Te Tiriti training, we've invested in staff cultural advisors, we've invested in Te Reo. We're investing constantly at a greater level than I think many councils have committed to. So I see Māori wards as a way of paying it forward on that investment that we're making. So for me, the question is not why, it's why not.
Hold on. I think that there is an irrational fear. I take offence to the point that people believe still, after all of this time in our country, that they know what's right for us. And you think it's a question of fair consultation. where we're going to ask the rest of the community, what sort of representation should we give Māori? They've told us that they want this. 4 of us don't believe, or whoever, we don't believe that that's right. We've not asked you yet how you believe Māori should be represented. I've battled against people who believe that they represent my voice in rooms over and over and over again, where I felt like I'd had to go down the long path and the long-winded story of educating the table so that they might have an inkling of an understanding of what I'm about to say right now, so that they might be brave enough to make a decision that goes against everything else that builds up inside them, that goes against litigation that has literally put our people at the bottom of society in this country, no matter who's been at the top. Doesn't matter who thought that they could represent us for the last 200 years. Doesn't matter who thought that they could sit in the Carterton District Council, the Marsden District Council, for however many years it's taken. We are still at the bottom of every one of those statistics. I'm just going to give you one today, and that is highest rates of suicide in this country, in Wairarapa, right now today. Māori at the highest rates of that. You tell me whether they think their well-being's been well met in this community by the people who made decisions on their behalf. I'm sick to death of sitting at the table, having our consultation asked for and then thrown away under the table. Thank you, see you later. We'll carry on doing what we've always done. And we'll carry on fighting the way we've always fought. Now, understand that you have some fear because you might not have gone out to consultation to the wider community, but I'm over being told by somebody else how we should be living our lives. And guess what? So has successive governments for a good 20 years now. No matter what they say to try and get into the seat of power. I love my cousin, love you, my cousin. I might be going off track a little bit, but you negotiated the treaty settlement on behalf of our people, and I loved you for it. And then you stood in the house and said, don't give the water back to the Maori. After you just negotiated getting our moana back. So I'm sorry, not every Māori at the table represents me. And if you need to go out to a wider consultation to figure out whether this is the right move or not, then you really, really, really have not even represented yourself. I don't want to be throwing things around, but I'm over having this conversation with people at the table. And I tell you right now, I will leave this table and I'll tell every one of our whānau never to support this council again, because you obviously do not care for the voice of the people that are telling you how they would like to be represented, not what you think is good for them.
Got it. Are there any other? Yes, Councillor Cherry Campbell.
Having sat and listened to fellow elected members' comments, and Joel, thank you so much for your presentation earlier. Marama, thank you for your words. For me, it's a no-brainer. The advantage of creating a Maori ward outweighs any disadvantages. I think it's not just Maori wards. I think our rural sector are completely underheard as well, but that's a whole nother conversation. For me, Carterton Council, and as Joel has said, and we have celebrated around this table, we haven't been scared to take progressive steps to lead the way. I mean, the reservoirs down the road, this event centre, the public did not want this event centre, but it went ahead. And now everybody celebrates that we have it. I just implore my fellow elected members to, if you've already made up your minds, reconsider. Establishing a Maori ward is not the end of everything. It's the beginning of so much more, and so much more for future generations that we can't even begin to visualise right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So the options have been put, and I thank everybody for their contributions. I thank everybody. This is a passionate issue. Before we go to deliberation, I'm going to draw your attention to para 8, page 24, where the options are laid out. And then we have the resolutions as recommended by council, by management, based on the work that's been done. If there is an adjustment that is anyone's contemplating there, I'll give you a bit of time to think about that, because the resolutions, though there are recommendations, you may have some. Can I just add a little comment to put some context in? When I came to this council in 2010, I walked into the then chamber and walked around and looked at the walls. And I made a cheeky quip at my then CEO, Colin Wright. And I did say to him, wow, there were no Maoris here when this place was settled. And he looked at me and said, what do you mean? And I said, well, clearly there were no Maoris in Carterton when it was settled. And he said, I don't understand what you're saying. I said, I'm just looking at all the photos on the wall. There is not one photograph of anyone in tangata whenua anywhere. And being a Ngātuere on my kahununu side and very closely related to Joel, and being one who whakapapas into both Ngāti Kahukura Whitia and into Hurunuiarangi, and involved in treaty settlements and involved in multiple boards of governance for different iwi entities, I found it a little curious. And we joked about it. But that started a transition and some changes that have gone on ever since 2010. We, for the first time, were a council that determined to make a contribution to Hurunuiarangi in recognition for the support that they gave us, and recognition of the fact that they were struggling to maintain their marae. $10,000 a year was a sizable sum back in those days, and it was a bit of a landmark decision because no one was doing that sort of thing anywhere. When we built this, and thank you, Robin, for raising the event centre, because that was a very traumatic time for a lot of us who were involved at that time. We engaged Hurunuiarangi and Rawiri and Marama, your brother, right at the earliest stage, and tried to draw in what we could do with this facility. We talked about the white rocks, which still aren't here. And we talked about a po that was going to be up front, and a bunch of other things to recognise that the tangata whenua were part of this place, and this place would need to represent them. I think back then we made some pretty bold decisions for the time. Since then, I moved on. We've had 2 mayors since then. We've had 2 CEOs since then, a raft of new management staff and new councillors, and this table reflects those changes. But the one thing that stands out to me is that it has not slowed. Despite the fact that there is never a Maori ward, this council has been ambitious and has sought to engage and listen. And even, Cousin Marama, your comments during our workshops where you said you've always felt listened to, and you've always felt that people take you seriously and take your contribution, and we do. And we just wished, I think, we had someone from Kahukura Whitia here more frequently to have that other side. Because at the end of the day, had Kahukura Whitia been involved in that resource management consent for the wastewater project, that decision would never have gone through without their input. But taking iwi representation at regional council level, that's ironically where the failure occurred. Didn't happen at this table. It happened elsewhere. And it happened on the advice of an iwi representative. So I think people should not feel that Carterton has not changed and moved forward. I believe myself it has. What is important is that what changes we make are sustainable, they're everlasting, and they strengthen. And they strengthen through, I think, collective buy-in. And that's what I always try to achieve, is a highest level of consensus in any move forward that we take. It's not always possible, I know that. Sometimes it brings our powder. Sometimes it gives you cause to reflect as to whether your timing's right, whether you want to spend some more time talking and to get to that point. But that's just, I guess, and that's why we got the treaty settlement to the level we got it to. But anyway, which we were told we would never, ever, ever would. So I think we're going to come down to this conversation. There are options. We resolve to create a Maori Ward, resolve not to create a Maori Ward, or do nothing, thereby retaining the status quo. Is there anything else that the councillors might consider appropriate? I think whilst you're pondering that, whether we wanted to take a break or something, have a
Great, sounds great.
pause, or what?
We could adjourn.
We could.
We have to
because we
adjourn at least once 2 hours is up. We are required to adjourn. So you can adjourn early if you wish.
So I'm not too sure. I'm at the mercy of the council as to how if you want to proceed now, grab a glass of water and then come back to the table or what. But we can do the first recommendation one quite swiftly. The question is, where do you want to go with recommendation 2, 3, or something else? And that's what Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Well, normally I would suggest you work your way down the list.
Yep.
Receive the report, see if there's a mover and a seconder for the first recommendation. If it passes, it passes. If it fails, you move to the third.
Bearing in mind, you don't have to take the recommended resolutions. You can get on what you prefer. And that is always on the table. What recommended resolutions are is exactly that. They're recommended resolutions. If there's something else in your mind, then now is the time.
I would like to have an option for us to consider that I'm not sure how you put this, but basically defer this decision until later next year when we've had an opportunity to engage more fully with our community.
There was 2 things that I didn't put up, and these things are very closely on my mind. I know that the conversation around the amalgamation is there. The thing that I do know, and I just checked with Jeff, is if we start the work, if this resolution passes and we start the work now, that does not stop us having to do. We still have to do the other work parallel to that, determining Maori Ward's Maori representation within the amalgamated option, if we want to do 2 streams of work there at the same time. We have rural wards that people are asking us to consider, but we have not done that. And we have STV. And we've deferred STV. Now the question would be asked, why did we defer the STV decision? So it's over to you. But if you want to have a think on what your option might be, I'm going to move to the recommendation number 1, that we receive the report. Could I have someone please move that we receive the report? Someone second it. Councillor Cherry Campbell, seconded by Councillor Della. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's that one done. At your hands.
I'm happy to move that we resolve to establish a Maori Ward to apply to the 2025 and 2028 local body elections.
And I'll second it.
Moved by Councillor Cherry Campbell, seconded by Councillor Newman. Is there any further discussion needed? All in favour?
Aye.
We have 1, 2, 3, 5. Against?
Take our name back down off the door, thank you. Straight up. Lucky we don't bring a whole goddamn haka right now. Take our name off this building. You do not have mana whenua support anymore.
Can you just, I didn't get your numbers wrong.
He hasn't yet.
I haven't declared those numbers. So we have 4 in favour.
Can I just say one thing?
4 against.
I know it's not protocol, so through the chair,
Please.
Worship, just to remember that this is the first opportunity that we have had to establish a Maori Ward, that there are lots of other conversations, as your worship, you said, that we in discussions to have going forward. I just really think to honour this opportunity, the first opportunity that we have actually had in 2018, it wasn't even a choice, it wasn't an opportunity. I just think, come on, please be bold. This is really, really important for us and for future generations. Thank you.
Sit down, but my vote doesn't matter.
Question here is as to whether or not I'm happy for our council to go forward. I've heard the message that I don't represent Māori. Made very clear to me, which pains. And we have for a divided council table on the matter. And I always said I'd never use a casting vote. I want consensus. I want to go forward as a council, not a divided council. I would prefer myself that this issue, along with STV, along with all the rural wards, be dealt with as one. I prefer myself that Māori representation be that wider discussion amongst the reorganisation. And going now means we've got to do 2 streams of work. And I've just heard this morning about how overstressed everybody is with the workloads. It would seem to me a conflict of interest for me to vote for my own hapu, who've just told me that I don't represent them. So I'm abstaining. Because, and I want to have a conversation with iwi as to where I stand in future. No, not now, not now.
Yes, now.
Sorry. No.
Plenty time to have a conversation.
At this point, I'm abstaining, so therefore it's a tied vote. So I'm open for any other recommendation that council might like to put and consider. Councillor Ayler.
I understand that the government have made it that we no longer need to have a poll. If we're at a stalemate here, what if we took it to a poll?
Well, there's I think there's probably another different pathway forward, but that's for the council to decide. Councillor Cherry Campbell.
We have until the 23rd of November. I know it's only 3 and a bit weeks away, 4 weeks away. Is it worth us having an extraordinary council meeting and retabling this? Will that give fellow elected members an opportunity to reconsider for or against? Just an option, but
what further information would councillors require?
That doesn't. I don't think it's as simple as that, Dale. I think people got to work to a point where there is a clear consensus. You know, I am on the track record, Georgina and I, and it's interesting that her name should be used so much today, given that she always stood on the general role, given that she was always firm that she never wanted to be on a Māori role. And it's no secret that I took exactly the same position as Georgina, not because we knew each other and we discussed it. That was our personal beliefs, that we earn the respect of our wider community by being part of it, and we stand and be judged by the wider community. That was Georgina's view, and she never resolved from that, not for one moment. And for me, there's 30 years of political history of me opposing specific legislation. I can't change that. For me to change those views would be hypocritical. But I'm happy to abstain on this note and to allow council to take more time, if there is more time, to have that and to work through some of the issues and come to a point. But I don't not wish to lead a divided council. And wherever we go forward, I'd like to believe that we have strength in that position and we do it. I also don't want to see us duplicating extra work. And I've told you that. I reluctantly accepted the deferment of the STV decision because I have ever since 1993 been an STV advocate. That's on the record. I can't change my record. So those are my views. I think Councillor Cherry Campbell, I thank you for that contribution. Deputy Mayor, I know the question and I get that perfectly, but clearly there is room for a wider discussion. Where to from here? Is there a resolution or are we leaving it at there and moving to the next item of agenda on the agenda?
I don't think we can leave it there. I would like to move that we reconsider the question of a Maori Ward next year once we've had a substantial engagement with the balance of the community. I'm neither for nor against. I just don't think it's a decision for me.
It would miss the 2020.
To make decisions though.
Just to clarify, Councillor Lawrence, if we were to reconsider next year, it would miss the 2025 local body election. It would only be picked up for the 2028 general election.
I think I understand that. I don't.
If you drive the amalgamation and get it through by 2025, it's done.
Merger.
The merger.
Don't mention the age.
Merger.
Sorry, you just said that you're not for or against. Does that mean that you've changed your vote no to abstain? Or?
No, I'm just saying it's not voting for or against a Maori Ward is not a decision that I feel I can make without getting some sort of steer from the balance of the community. That's where I sit. Can't vote for it.
There being no further recommendations. Is there a proposal? Or am I moving to the next item on the agenda?
Well, that was my proposal. I don't know if there's a second for that.
Just like us to make a decision and go forward.
I think it was an interesting point you made, Ron. You don't want to have a split council like moving forward, but we're going to have a split council staying still or moving backwards. If you can't see the bigger picture, and I don't know, for me, to try and explain this to my kids tonight, it's horrific. Like, I don't know how to explain it to my kids that we couldn't get this over the line. That's why I had to write it down because it makes me emotional. But I can't get my head around it.
Close to adjournment. Let's take a break. Yep. Take a break and we'll come back to it's democracy.
10 minutes.
So you, Councillor Ailing, do you have quite a bit to do up with